What is up, YouTube? It's Cord Campbell, streaming, building Mitta, coding Mitta. Can't even remember the name of the show. All right, so yesterday we were implementing indexing, and that's pretty exciting because we're indexing again, finally. I've been indexing for quite a while. I mean, it's not like I didn't have an indexer running or I couldn't search it. We were doing searches. I don't think this might work. I think this still does work. Yeah, that still works. So that's searching. So that's actually searching this particular, let's see where it is. It's this one right here. This is my user ID, this UPNDSA. I implemented a new, I want to leave that one open. Let's see, localhost. I implemented a new endpoint this morning. I think I just called it H. And so that's an unauthenticated. If we go in here and look at site, which is just sort of a catch-all of like routes that we're dealing with Flask. We've got a endpoint here called H, and I just called it like a health check. It's basically a health check that tells you whether or not you're logged in or not. And the reason I did that is because the shell, and here we're just returning basically this. So that's what you're seeing here. And it populates it either with anonymous if you're not logged in. And this does not require, this doesn't have a login required attached to it, to the class. So that means that whenever you hit this endpoint, it'll just serve it. But if the Flask login current user is not an object, then it'll fall to this accept and it'll set it to anonymous. So I just figured that if I took out this class method, or this, whatever the hell those things are called, if I took out that, then what would happen is then I could actually serve it up if we were logged out. And that fixes this problem where we would get to evaling the data coming back, which is normally JavaScript. Normally the system is dishing up JavaScript to us. But when you get logged out, then what happens is it starts doing a 302 to ask you to log in. And because the page is static, you're on this page and you're doing, and then you do something like help or something like that, then behind the scenes it's making an AJAX call out to the system, and then the system's like, hey, you're not logged in, but this page is still here, so the browser's not going to unload the page. So they're called decorators. So I just thought, well, what I need is something without a decorator that causes it to be logged in. I need something that I can query whenever I get an error in the eval statement, because sometimes the error could be, for example, if we were to do, I'll just go to help. So we'll just do something in help that's not normal. We'll do something like foo equals, something like that. And then we're going to run help again, and then that should break, and it says error encountered in evaluated script. And I notice we need a semicolon here and scroll. So if what happens there is if we look and we inspect it and we go to the network, we clear that out, and then we just hit help, then you can see what it's going to do is it's going to go to /j. It's going to respond with something that cannot be evaled, which is, there's an error right there. And then what's going to happen is it's going to fall into this block here, which is, it's this try catch, and it's going to say, well, something happened. And I probably should try to debug it, like get debugging input in here. I could probably use the catch to get debugging input. I'm not doing that right now, but I could do that. But then what I'm doing is I'm immediately running a git, which you can see there in the query here. I'm doing it to H, and then I'm checking to see if the system is telling me that I have a user ID. And if I have a user ID, then I'm just going to say, well, I just have an error. and then I could obviously print out the error for the user. I could say, here's the error. So that helps us. And here I'll show you it actually working on the logout. So I'm going to log myself out by typing logout in another window, which will wipe out the session on the server. And then I'm going to run this. And then what it does, instead of saying there's an error, it just reloads the page and takes you back to login. So that's, and I guess what I could do here is I could take it to email. That'd probably be a better thing to do, or log in, instead of taking you back to the home page. So let's test that real quick. My code is 570.383. Open another window, localhost. Go to the shell, log out. Go back to the other shell here and type in help. And it should take me to log in. That's great. It's much better than breaking the way it was. So simple fix. So it was just really just a couple lines of code to get that done. 991.221. That's a cool one. 991.221. Okay. So what we're on to today is we're going to get indexing working. I'm going to check my sound real quick, just because it's good to check sound. That sounds good as can be. All right, so we have our indexers running, which is great. We've got some documents, a whole bunch of documents in our user database, or user index, which is this UP thing. But I've got my other indexes here, and I'm going to show you what we've got here. Now, yesterday I was having some problems with Grub again. So here, and what I realized was that I needed to stringify all of these. I'm pretty sure that, like, the problem is in the shell I've got here, I'm not stringifying this stuff, and maybe I should. I don't know, because that line, somebody could write some, like if I were to do this, for example, could I trip it up? If I wrote JSON in here and said foo, I'm not sure. What would that do? It just says foo back. I guess it's okay the way that I'm handling, but anyway, the whole upshot is that I needed a JSON stringify this, which I think I tried on stream yesterday. I got stuck right here and ended the stream because I don't like to make the streams longer than 2 hours. I just don't think there's any point. And so what I was missing was this content type application JSON, and I kind of felt like, I mean, I could see myself in the video trying to figure this out, and my brain is just not, like, at that moment was just not in the mode of like figuring out, yeah, you need a content type. And so what was happening is I was sending over that data, but I wasn't setting the content type when I sent it. And if we look at these posts that we're doing with curl, well, that's exactly what's happening here, is we're setting the content type with a header request. And so we needed to do the same thing with jQuery or with JavaScript. And here the data.json file is, let's see here, data.json. That's the data.json file. And so what we're doing essentially in the sending over, in the code that we're sending over to index, here we're actually posting the document to the index API from the shell. It is where we're needing to do something that looks very similar to that. So we have a source type, we have a list of documents to index, so that's a document. And then here we have the document. And again, it's a list of documents. But in this case, it's only going to be one document from the JavaScript, from the grub.js file at least. It's going to be one document. And the reason why is what we're going to do is we're going to take the URL from the user, then we're going to post it to the server, to the crawl endpoint, to /g. It's going to reply with some data, which is going to pop out into here. And then we're going to take that data, and that data looks like this. So if we take a look at it, grub episode before last, I should say, when I was a panda, I had some music playing, I guess, and I got a copyright violation. So it said that my video may not be played in some countries, and I was like, well, it doesn't really matter because the audio is horrible anyway. So I don't know what I was playing, but I was playing something, and they picked up on hearing that music. It's so weird. Like, I don't look at it as, like, if you're watching the stream, clearly you're not listening for the music. But if you hear the music, then it's a copyright violation. According to YouTube, it's a copyright violation because they have some bot running by and saying, can I hear any copyrighted music? And then those copyright holders are like, you can't use that. But it's like, I'm just listening to the music, which is sort of the intent of music, is to listen to it, but then you're not supposed to rebroadcast it. But then I'm broadcasting myself doing something that I sort of need music to do. I need music to do this because it's boring for me to sit here for 2 hours without music and just hearing myself talk. So I'm not really playing the music for you, I'm playing it for me. But then I wore headphones, and that doesn't work because I can't hear myself talk while I'm wearing the headphones. And then I was mixing in myself, and then that was sort of distracting. So I don't know. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing. And I think that's the problem with some of these rules, is that the rules are there because people break the rules and they don't respect the rules, or they don't respect other people's content. I don't feel like I'm disrespecting somebody else's content just playing some music in the background. If you came by my office and we were hanging out, the music would be there. I wouldn't get in trouble for that, but I get in trouble for it because I'm broadcasting myself to the internet. And, well, that's just the way it is, so. Anyway. Okay, so we need to search today, but then I need to finish up. This grub file is getting kind of out of control. This is one of the longer shell commands, I think, that I've written. And it is a little unwieldy, but all things considered, could be worse. So let's kind of go through the logic here. So this is a cancel button, which we don't use anymore. And the reason why is because when we bookmark something, I really need to quit using that word. I need a beeper, beep, when I said that. It's not really bookmarking it. It's not really saving it. It's a request to index is what it is. So when we request an index of the site that we're on, then let's see. Let's do something happy here. I'm tired of bad news. New chips for NVIDIA for mining Ethereum. Well, whatever. How about this? What's some Nintendo news? So if we go in here and we type in localhost 8080, this only works for me, but normally you type in mitta.us there and you hit enter. And what happens is it's gonna go to the shell. You're gonna get a token, which is this thing right here, which is good for loading the page. If you try to reload this page, it does not work. So if we reload the page, it just takes you back to the shell and refresh, and it clears it and refreshes it. I think that that's probably the most sensible thing to do there, because I don't want people it's difficult to catch that coming in because you need to like catch it and redirect it and then authenticate them. And so that was my solution for it. So let's go here and do it again. Localhost 8080. And then it's going to pop it up here. And so what I did is I made it where you could delete the redirect. And then you hit enter. And then it will go and crawl it. And so we've got this flow now, which is we've got the title and description, which I need to somehow identify that this is a title and this is the description. And then I need to sort of tease out the part where it's like, oh, hey, I'm also imaging the site. So I go with the crawl. So crawl actually does a real quick crawl of the site. And that happens here. HTML crawl. And HTML crawl is up in libsoup. So we go up to libsoup, and this is HTML crawl. So this is essentially what happens when you tell it to crawl a page. You give it that page right there. It runs this code on that page. It runs beautiful soup on it and tries to get, if possible, if it can find it, at the title and description. And if they're not there, then it'll just make those empty strings. So Grub takes advantage of that. I say takes advantage of that. It calls it through the /g endpoint, but the /g endpoint also creates a request to the Grub servers to image the page too. So here is where we actually end up seeing that title and description coming back from Beautiful Soup, which comes back immediately. Meanwhile, the Grub server's off working on its request, which is asynchronous. And then when it gets a response, then it'll do a post back. And then if we look at later on, we look at it, then we'll see it. So what I need to do here is figure out how I'm going to handle that post back. Right now I'm just doing a query. And you see here it says this. It says try to search for this in a little bit. Grub servers are busy. So let's try to search for it. And the way we're going to do that is we're looking for Woozy Chestnut Emu is the name of the index. I think I'm going to have to rename the indexes slightly, where I put an extension on the end of them, which is something built off the user ID, because I can't have all these. If I get a collision in the names, which is likely over time, that I'll get a collision in the names of the sidekicks, then we need to have an extra set of characters on there. So it'll probably be like Woozy Chestnut Emu dash and then some part of the user ID. So we're going to query, Woozy Chestnut. So we're going to query that, and then we see a bunch of data in here, and here is, so this is the Microsoft one, and then, that's the Microsoft one. So it says, where to go? Oh, we need to probably query for more documents. Yeah, so here's the Microsoft story right here. So if we were now to go search for this, and we're going to see here, it says it's Microsoft's in the title. So let's see if we just search for Microsoft, what happens. Nothing happens, and the reason why is because we have to specify our specify our field, and we can't do this. That doesn't work. So we have to specify the field. So we have to say description : Microsoft. And then we can execute the query. And, well, that didn't work. Did we spell description right? Yes. Is it in the title? Maybe it's in the title. That's in the title. So the description actually didn't contain that. So that sort of like calls attention to some of a problem with searching. So if we have something that says URL, and then we have something that says title, and we have something that says description in our document, then that's fine as long as we have something that says URL, title, and description every single time. But in the case of, say, just somebody creates a spool and they don't call it, give it a title or a description, then we're going to end up with stuff that is different. We're going to end up with like different field names that we have to look into for returning the document. So we have to have some standardized way of returning a document and then weighting it based on what field names are populated, what fields are populated. And so one way to do that is we could, here in this particular situation, we could say something like what I've done in the past, which is text, which would contain all of the text in the title and the description and the URL, for example. And so in the URL, we would tease that apart to where you get rid of all the punctuation. So it's a Microsoft and starts and removing Flash and stuff like that, but that's also in the title, you can see here. But we're not going to always know that, and that's not always going to be the case with every single site. So we need to figure out a way to get all of that text from all of these things into one single field. So that's one challenge here. And I've done that before, and if you look at, if I were to just query, let's see, let me switch to the other index. This is my index. And then I'm just going to query that. And you can see here I was toying around with a couple of them, but this one, for example, it uses the words, it's all of the words that were in both the title, description, and the URL. And so I think that's probably what I'm going to use here. And in order to do that, I kind of need to know, well, in the case of Grub will always, this file will always run. And so therefore this particular document schema will be defined in here and will always be the same. So it'll always have a URL, it'll always have a title if it's set, and it'll always have a description if it's set. And so my thought is what I want to do is use the code that I used to do this on the server side when I'm calling the sidekick method. And if we look at that real quick, this post I, so we're sending the document to the sidekick. Now the idea here is that at some point the user could do something like this as well. So they could send in whatever they wanted to send in. And I'm sorry I have to touch the mic. Hope it's not too noisy. I just gotta lift it up. That's the wrong knob. There we go. I'm sure that was noisy. I'm sorry. Okay. So how we handle this is TBD, but for right now we need to figure out the rest of it, and we also need to take care of the tags. So we have some data coming back here. We also need to handle in Grub, we need to handle, so this is a post. I'm posting the line. So then we're expecting the Grub endpoint the crawl right here to grab the URL. We've totally dropped the idea of handling tags here. The tags are here. So I think we're going to be doing some work on crawl today. Pretty sure, because we need to get these. We need to get these. If we're in here and we do something like this, like if we look at the help, let's see here. Is our help still working? Yes. So we go in here and fix help. Let's see what I'm saying here for help. It says, yeah, it's indicating that we should, oh really? Let me save it. This thing right here, which that's broken too. I need to fix help, but I'm just revamping help, so I just probably will not work on it on stream. So it's indicating here that I should be able to type in something like this. It doesn't matter the order where you type these in, it'll always extract them, but if I wanted to do something like news, and then I wanted to do HTTPS news.google.com, something like that. Yep. Then what I should expect when I see that call, the response from, what does this say? Uncaught syntax error, help, bang, help target. Oh, that was the error from earlier. Network. So then I would see the tags in there that I had typed in. Right now I've only got URL in there, and I'm not indexing that, so I need to fix that now. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's close help. Let's close off all this stuff I don't need. We had everything going on today. Earlier there was a jackhammer, now there's a blower and a crow. I wish we had a little bit of classical music playing. Do we need Solr open? We're going to need to get into Solr here in a minute. We do need crawl. I don't think we need the shell anymore. The shell doesn't change very often, but I needed to fix that problem with the logouts, so that's much better. I have this white bar thing going on at the bottom. I don't know. It's kind of annoying how big it is. Let's see, what does it say? Height 37 in style 205. Let's make that like 23. That looks a little bit better. And then eventually I'll put something down there. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to... Well, we're posting the line, so there's really nothing to do there. So when the data comes back from the server, which is coming back from crawl, then it should have, and it does, it has the tags in it. So what we need to do here is we need to do the tags equals query.tags. And I think that's all. So let's look at builder real quick. Yeah, so it's going to return the tags. That's it. And then we want to print the tags here. So let's try this again. And maybe, what can we crawl? You know what we could crawl is our own site, so we're not crawling somebody else. So I'll just crawl the API like that, and then I'm going to put docs in here. And it shows docs, so that's good. What we need to do now is if there are no tags, then that should be empty. So let's try that again without it. And it's an empty list. So that's good. That's what we want. So it's an empty list. At this point, tags is an empty list. So then we're going to go down here, and probably what we want to do is, because we can do it right here, we're going to do this, tags append, and we're going to go ahead and put the URL in there. And that's just because we're crawling a URL. So, and then we can delete this and we can say tags here. So now we should have that coming out of this like this, and we should see it coming back. So we'll clear out the network and we're going to hit enter here. You see the request to the JavaScript endpoint to serve up JavaScript to us. So then it's executing this on the fly. This, that JavaScript, this is grub. It's running here. It's running this /g endpoint, which we see the request to, and this is the response. And we see the tags coming back here saying tags. Now let's look at this. We told it docs, but it's still only coming back with URL here. Then what happens is we do a post, I believe. Yes, a post to the, we're doing a post to the index to index the document, which is being done right here. So this is the document that we're indexing. And then we're querying the spool to see if we have a file name that we can show the user for of the file that we would be pulling back, the image that we're pulling back that gets posted back. And then we're showing the picture. Okay, so we didn't get our desired outcome here, so let me think about this. Okay, so we typed in docs, and did we get that back in docs? Let's see here. Were we still printing that? I think I took out the print segment. Let's go back into crawl. What are we changing here in grub? Oh yeah, take that out and save it. So in crawl, we have this tags append. So we should see the tags. We should see two tags. We should see docs and URL. And then we see the response. Did we see it in here? I don't think so. Let's run it again. So there's the JavaScript. There's, oh, it's blocking because I clicked in here. I need to really stop clicking in there. Okay, so there's the JavaScript. There's the definitely says docs and URL there. So weird. Tags URL. So we're doing a post to this. Spool tags. JSON dumps tags. Spool updated, put tags equals tags. There's the tags. So if the spool exists, well, then we need to update it with the tags that we have. So then that's kind of a double problem, isn't it? So we need to do, can we do something like this? Spool, we sort of need to dedupe tags. So if I pass in a new tag, then do we replace? So here's the question, right? Is if I've already crawled this site and I'm telling it it's got docs, but then it goes and queries and it says, well, I found that and I found that I have a URL tag on it, but I don't have a docs tag on it. So right now it's ignoring it and then it's updating it and it's just tossing the tags. So it's essentially tossing URL and docs, but it already has URL in there. So then it's not tossing that one, it's just updating the title and the description. So should we overwrite it? I feel like overwriting it's a good thing because then we could just say, well, the last time I indexed it, it was this, and this time, I mean, this is the spool. So it's not a document. We're gonna have to figure out how to update the document too, which is gonna be interesting. So we don't want to have multiple results just because we have multiple copies of it, we don't want to put multiple results in the data in the index. So that's a to-do. I don't really want to think about deleting tags on an existing spool. That's kind of troublesome. My feeling is that I just want, it's like if you tell it tags, then it'll take those tags and it'll put it on the spool. But if you, because I mean you're rerunning it, so you're telling me to re-index it. It's not often that you're going to want to re-index it. Probably. The user probably will not want to re-index the site, a site a lot. I mean, like something like this is kind of pointless to re-index it because it's not changing. But if you were to if you were to do like Google News or the front page of Hacker News or something like that, then there is a reason to do it because you want multiple copies of it. So at that point, would you want to keep the old tags? I'm leaning toward just overriding them, and then the way we would do that is we're just going to do spool tags equals tags. And then we're going to put it. So let's see what that does. That's still going to put a URL in there. Let's do it again. So now we have docs and URL in there. Nothing I can do about that blower. It's going to go for like at least 15 more minutes based on the last time I was doing this. I guess I need to remember on Thursdays at this time that there's always a blower. Okay. Well, so in theory, crawl is sort of sorted. I don't think I need to do anything else with it. So, and then here I'm doing the index. And this is kind of interesting because what we're doing is we're saying, okay, go crawl this. It says, okay, well, I've looked at it. I've created a spool for it. And here. Here. It's this post. And then we're getting back the spool, and then we're selectively taking part of the spool and building a document and then posting it? I don't know. It seems like what I ought to be able to do is just take this entire thing and post it to the indexer, and then it should figure that out. In the docs, what I'm saying is that you could send whatever, like this. So I'm indicating that this is what the document should look like when you're sending it in. But I say in here that spools can be indexed by create and accept sets of similar images for storage in a document with source type of spools. Spools are ingested by both the index methods and tagging methods. Create a new spool which may be used as a target for uploading an image set. And see here, I don't even have the spool name or anything yet. So I'm getting back this object, and what I really ought to do is return this object into it. But I think the thing is that this is actually wrong. Yes, this is wrong. And the reason it's wrong, and this is in upload, the reason it's wrong is because if I take this, I don't think this is valid JSON. Let me double check it. I could be wrong about that, but let me check. Well, I mean, number one, I'm looking here and this is just like not even formatted properly, but let's take this and check and see if this is valid JSON. This is valid. I guess that's because I'm saying here that the spool, well, it's here. I mean, this is a dictionary, so this is a key, and then the key is to a dictionary. So this technically would be the source type. I mean, one thing I could do is I could do something like this to let the system know when it gets it what it is. So I could do something like that. No, I don't want to do that. There's nothing more annoying than a blower when it's blowing and it's kind of moving around and you don't know how long they're going to be. It's like, I don't want to hear that anymore. I could probably stand it if I knew like it was 3 more minutes, but then when you don't know how long it's going to be, it's like super annoying. I don't know why. I'm probably calling attention to it is probably not a good idea, but whatever. So source type spool, then say the spool. Or do we say source type? Do we say something like this? And then this is the type, spool. We could just say source. We could say data. I mean, it's kind of the response. So we could just say response. Which reminds me, I did this health JSON thing, and I think I said this wrong. Index, site, health, health. I said response. This needs to be a result. The result is success. Result and response is sort of the same thing, but I use them interchangeably. So the response is the response object, which is source type spool. It has an update, a name, upload URL, URL title, description, and then all of this crap can be sent to the index, and we have the source type. I think that's the thing to do. I've needed to figure this out for a while, so I think this is probably the right thing to do. All right, let's look here at what sort of problems we're going to get ourselves into here by changing this. So we have a list. So that's spools.json in our templates. So that's what that looks like. So the proposal would be to change it to responses, I guess. We could just make it response in a system array. And then this has to become the source type in here. Like that. Okay, I think that looks okay. So then we're going to take uploads. Stay open there. Okay, so we took care of this one. Now we're looking at this one. So we're going to create it, we're going to update it, we're using spool.json to do that. So we're going to go back up here to spool. I think that's right. I don't think this was ever supposed to be spool response. Now then the question is whether or not, if you have a single one or not, if you still put it in an array. I don't know about that. I feel like it should be in an array, but I don't know. So source type and then spool. All right. Now we're looking at the get method on the spool name, and it's going to use spool error, which is fine. If it doesn't work, and it's going to use spool, which we just fixed here, if it does work. And then we're going to fill out all those things, and then return the response. Let's look at upload. So this is the post. It's going to use spool error if it breaks, and it's going to use spool if it works. So that's fixed. Delete doesn't matter. This delete doesn't matter. Okay. So now we should be getting back something from those methods that look like this. So let's test this. So what we want to do is we want to do a curl to the local host because we're doing dev. So normally that would be mitta.us if you're doing the following along or anything like that. And then we're going to do G, which means crawl. We need to do a post. So we're going to do an X post. And then we need to do some data, and that is going to be URL equals https mitta.us/API v1. We're just doing that, we're just indexing our own docs. And then it's just a page to index. And then we're going to go to the end of this and we're going to put token equals. You can put the token any way you want, but, oh yes. This program, okay, control insert, shift insert to paste, and then we want to copy this. Control insert, shift insert. Now let's try that. And that should work. Local variable tags reference before assignment. Line 93 in crawl. Well, good to know. Crawl, line 93. Here, well, before assignment, if not spool, create a spool for storage. Else, okay. Oh, if URL, fix this. Else, read the line parameters and find the URL if present. Find URLs, fix it. Who's this say? If URL. Find URLs. Oh, so the problem here is that if there is a URL, we don't have a line. So we need to do the tags as well. Yep, we need to do the tags. So that's in, if we go look in upload, we're handling that here on the post. we handle something very similar in the post here. So we have images, data, files. Where are the tags? I think it's where I create it. Here. Here. Also the title and the description. Crawl has that, doesn't it? Yeah, in crawl we don't worry about the title and description comes in from the site itself. So the site defines that. Here we need to do this. Let's see, let's not put it in this thing. Let's put it here. I go else, but I mean really, if there is no URL, I'm assuming that it's, I don't know, that code's not great. Let's fix this. So, well, that was magical. What we really need to do is toggle online. So we need to say right here, we need to say, if we have a line, probably is from the shell. Request. Request is probably from it. Is probably from the shell. Yes. And then we want to say, if line, else. And I want to take all this and I want to put it here. And I take all this and I'll put it here. So this reads correctly. I'm going to do this like this. And then we need to do the tags like that. And then at this point we want to say, so if there is a line, I want to get the query and I want to append the URL to the tags. Here, if tag string for tag and tags, well, here, it's also a URL. So I don't know why I have an empty array here. This is, oh, well, I have an empty array because I pulled that code over from the uploads, which it doesn't always, it's not necessarily going to have the URL. All right, so let's read through this real quick. So if we have a line, the request is probably from the shell. So what do we mean by that? So what we mean by that is that if we're typing something in here and we type in grub and a URL, a tag like news, and we'll go ahead and call Google this time. If we do something like this, then what happens is it comes in here and when it does this post, it's going to post a line in here. So we're gonna get a line. Let's look at that. So we're gonna inspect this, and drag it down here, and we'll go to network, and we're gonna clear this, and we're gonna clear the console error, and then we're gonna hit enter. And when we do this post here, headers, if we look at this, we see that we only have one parameter that we're sending, which is line. So we're sending in this line. We're saying, basically we're saying to the server, you parse this. I don't want to parse this. So it's going to see this. It's going to see that the line is there. It's going to run a builder query. So it's going to tear apart this line, and then it's going to populate URL with the URL and the tags with the tags. And then if we go in and we look at the response, we should see there it is, news right there. And something happened and it didn't finish. Because we probably need to change something? I don't know, it should work. We've broken it. So tags, this URL, that got in there. Else, we're gonna see if we can get the URL from the post, which would be from here. And that worked. And we haven't specified any tags in here, so this technically has worked. But then we're going to do this. So we're going to do ampersand tags equals foo and bar. And now we have all our tags here being returned. And then I guess the thing that we want to do is look at this spool, so it's OZHA. So we're going to go over to Google real quick, and we're going to go into our database, into our data store, entities, and we want to go to spool. And we're looking for OZHA. Here. And well, you know what? I just realized is that the tags are encrypted. They're serialized. So I wonder if we can unserialize that. Let's see, JSON object unserialized. Online. I don't know. What is it? JSON? No. Object array. I don't know. It's in there, which is good. This file name thing's getting long. Doesn't help much, you can't see in there, so. Okay, now we gotta figure what's wrong with grub. Let's see here. Says something. Well, that's completely unhelpful. So as uncount reference E is not defined. Cannot read property title of undefined. Is that what it said? That's giving me an error clicking down there. That's not something I need to worry about. Yeah, cannot read property of undefined. Data spool title, psychic spool title. Okay. I don't know. Here. Taking a quick peek, looking at what I found, data spool. So it's making a call to /g, it's posting it, and it's posting the line. And I don't need to set the MIME type here. So it's posting the line, then crawl is getting it, if line, query builder line, Flask login, current user. Else result, HTML crawl. I would assume the description's not in there either. Let's print the data. Here. So we're going to say console log data. Go to the console, we're going to clear the console, we're going to run this. There's the data. So it says description, title. There's the title. That's response. We got back to where we needed to be. Same thing's going on down here. So response name, yeah, that'll work. Okay. Let's look for spool. So JSON stringify, still working. Post the document to the index. So we actually don't want to do that. We want to put, what we want to do is post the entire response. So we need to say something like this. Like this. And we can get rid of this rest of this shit. Yep. See, I'm making that an array, so I should probably go back and make that other one array. I should standardize on returning lists or arrays. Is it a list or is it an array? That's the question. Okay, so at this point now we're actually posting to index here. Here. I'm saying JSON documents equals request.getJSON. Let's print this. So I'm thinking what we should get back is this data response object, which should be this thing right here. So I should get back this entire thing, and then I should index all of that. Now the problem is when I index it, what I need to do, I'm going to put a note of that. A note here is that I need to create a text or words field that has all words from title, description, etc. URL, whatever, right? So that's just so that we can search one field and get back that document. And then we can weight it based on what other fields it has in it. And check my time. I was like 11 minutes. It seems like it's been an hour. Okay. Let's run this again. Found nothing. You found nothing, grub. Did I save it? I did. Oh, you know what? There we go. Well, let's see if that's true. What a woozy chestnut. There should be tags in it. Because we can see the tags here. I don't see it. I don't think it got indexed. Let's change the index. We'll switch to slimy brown wizard. Does that have any docs in it? I don't think it has any docs in it. It doesn't have any docs in it. Okay, let's index here now. So now what we did is we switched the index, so now we're indexing into slimy brown lizard instead of woozy chestnut. Now we can do a search here. We get anything back? We don't get anything back. So something happened along the way. Do we got any errors over here? So it's giving us the response as the source type spool, and then the name and the updated and all that stuff. Adding document maybe. Well, did it or didn't it? Oh, sorry, that's coming from index. He's yawning again. I got a lot of sleep last night, finally. Oh. Adding document maybe. Oh, print JSON documents. Well, you know what we need to do here is we need to do this. I think what we want to do is we want to do this. We want to do for document in JSON documents, just like below. And then we want to look at, yeah. Oh, you know what? We're just going to do this. It's just a response. We don't want the whole thing. So we're going to load the JSON documents. And then we want to look at the response. And then we're going to print the document. Just like that. All right, let's run this again. Apologies to you, Google. Error, internal server error reported. What does it say? Yeah. What did it print earlier? So it said this. Oh. Okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense. There should only be one response. So I know where the problem is. It's here. Right? Because we're grabbing the response from the request to crawl, and crawl is using spool JSON, which is this guy, and there is no, it's not an array. So we don't want to put this thing in an array. That doesn't make any sense. So let's try this again. This should work now. He says, okay. Source type updated, name, upload URL, URL, title, description, tags, file name. Now it should be in here, in theory. Doesn't look like it is in here. Slimy brown lizard? Slimy brown lizard. Okay, let's clear this. Let's reset this. And then we're going to grub, and then we're going to give it news and https news.google.com. Here's the response object. We loop through it inside of index here, printing the document that we're getting. Well, we're just saying add document, but in JSON documents. I'm surprised that doesn't print out the whole thing. Why is it printing out just the... What if I did this? Does that do anything? No, because it's treating that document as a string. Interesting. So if we print JSON documents here, what if we do this? JSON loads? Something like that? Does that work? JSON object must be a string byte or byte array. JSON object must be a string bytes or byte array, not dict. So it is a dict. I mean, well, that was what I expected. Git JSON should like make that a dict. So then print JSON documents, yes. What if we just say print JSON documents response? Like that. So we have a source type, spool, updated, name, spool, title, tags, file names. That's it. It's all in there. Is this thing valid JSON? I think this is a dict. That's a dict. Maybe I can't do that. So I'm going to say documents, document equals. Are there going to be multiple documents? Well, yeah, there's going to be multiple documents. There could be multiple documents. Oh, shit. Spool JSON. Yeah? I don't know. I'm confused now. So spools, same. Oh? Yeah, like this. Put it backwards. Like that. Okay. So that's an array of one dictionary. Like that. Let's see, this is going to blow up. Probably. What does it say here? It says source type spool updated. That's the whole thing. So then what we need to do here in index is we need to assume that we're only getting one. So for document and JSON documents, so now we should be able to print it. And that should print out the document, I think. I'm not sure why it's not. That looks right. So that's the document, and that's the one we want to send in to Solr, and I doubt it has it. Oh, it does. Great. So it found both of them. Okay, now so for some reason, what's happening is because we're doing something different with the single entry, we're putting it in a list, as we were talking about earlier. When we're calling crawl, we've got you can see that we're going to have a problem because we did that twice. All right, let's step through what's happening here. So I'm typing in this grub. It's loading grub up here. This is not dealing with, we have a bunch of this in here. We're posting to /g, which is crawl here. And we're returning here a spool object, which is defined here as an array now. For parity with the other, with the ability to post multiple documents. We have to be able to, I mean, the spool itself could be, a spool could produce multiple documents perhaps. So the response should then contain an array. I just think it seems like it's best whenever we're, see if we have this, where is it here? This data.json, so that's essentially what's happening here. Is it's indicating that this is a bunch of, this is a set of documents. And if we go and look at the sidekick JSON, sorry, not the sidekick, the, I mean, I guess we've got the same situation there, but I'd like to standardize the way that I'm formatting all this for the APIs. So spool JSON, we're returning the response as an array. So we're basically saying you could have multiple things coming back in there. And in fact, if you look at the sidekicks, it's done that way. It's like that. So I don't know. It's kind of tough. I mean, I don't want to antagonize on it too much. I don't want to get overly caught up in, you know, making sure that it's all syntactically correct. I mean, even syntax. I mean, I don't know. I mean, every time I deal with the sidekick, it's pretty obvious that that's an array of sidekicks coming back. So if somebody wanted to parse it, they just code it that way. So I mean, it's whether they type sidekick or response, it doesn't matter. It does matter in the spools. It does matter because whenever I'm dealing with the responses of a spool is a document. So all documents need to have some, I mean, this could say documents as well. It could say wherever I want it to say up there. So maybe I should say, make it say documents instead of response. I don't know. But it says response right now, so I'm going to leave it like that. So, but the problem is in Grub, I'm looking for response, but I'm not looking for it to be an array. I'm immediately going to go after the title, but then you've got an array in the way here. So this is basically like that. And I guess that's okay in here. So maybe I'll just hack it up for now, like this. It might be better. Might be better to make a proper response object here. Like this. And say it's the 0th element. And then I can just say something like this. Yeah. Well, looks promising. It's crawl upload index. It's sort of the order I'm using. Okay. And then we're doing here and look. How many documents do we have? It says we have 2. We had 2 earlier. Let's create. Interesting. Undefined. Undefined. Let's reload this. Looks like we had a problem with the sidekick. It's the click error. Go away. Did that one happen again? I don't know. It did. Undefined not found. jQuery min. Let's see. Why is that happening? It's got to be something here. Oh yeah, this one. It's kind of an important one. There we go. Let's go through these, make sure we got them all. So this is the definition of it. Okay. Response title. How many are there? That's it. Get the error again. Google's be like, what are you doing? There we go. good there. It's coming back. That's good news. Let's go look in Solr. How many documents do we have? Still only 2. Still only 2. Weird. Okay, so we're going to go into index, I guess. And then we need to print would index and print those JSON documents, and then go back here and let's try this again. And what do we got? So we have a response. We would index and it says print JSON documents, and then let's try printing the response only. Oh, you know what? No, that should work because we're doing a loop there. So then this should be, that response is not an array. So that's what's being posted by grub to the index endpoint. So that's here. Here. Should I pass a data response? Because I'm looping through the documents. It needs to be an array when I pass it to it. But here I'm stripping it out because I'm accessing parts of it for doing things later. Like down here, printing things and stuff like that. Yeah, so this should be the actual data response. I renamed that one, I shouldn't. I'm passing, so I'm grabbing the response and then I'm passing it on in total as an array. So it ends up looking like this thing. What I'm passing on from the grub JavaScript is looking like this. It ends up looking like just like this. This thing. All right, let's try that. And that's a list. That's an array. What index? Okay, now let's check the index. It should have it in there now. Yeah, found 3 of them. Okay, now let's index one that we haven't done yet. So we're going to do news.ycombinator.com/news. All right, that should be already indexed. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to say title, I think, is news. Maybe that'll work. Well, I guess the title on there, that's always news. Let's see here. Where did it say? This is hacker. So let's look for hacker. We should just find one. Perfect. News.ycombinator.com hacker. Okay, what time is it? Great, we have 30 minutes. We should be able to work on search now. I think we should be able to work on search. Now we have duplicate entries, so need to figure out how to deal with duplicate entries. So I'm gonna go open a ticket real quick. I don't have a lot of I've closed a bunch of my tickets just to clear the way for creating some new tickets. But I don't want to create too many tickets because like something like this is sort of an involved thing. So it's like how to deal with duplicate documents. So dealing with duplicate spools and the index. How? I don't know when to release. I have no idea when I'm going to get done. Shoot for March. It's ridiculous. I have no idea how to estimate the amount of work and stuff like this, because it's like you create some work and then you go work on it and then you're like, well, I don't need to do any of that. So then that part disappears. You don't need to do it. So then whatever you estimated for time to work on it is gone. I don't know. Like working on something by yourself, basically you can just say you're going to take as much time as you're going to take to do it. And the more complicated it gets, the longer it takes. So it's like add a feature, it's a month. Take away a feature, it's a month. But then you have to make a list of features. So you might have 6 features, but then each one of those has functionality. It's like, you know, you can look at something like this and it's like, well, clicking on this image, making it full screen when I click on it, probably not a big deal, right? It's probably not. It'll probably take me a day to figure this out, if that. But then knowing I have to do it, I might not need to do it because maybe I don't need to click on images. I mean, here we are going to need to click on images, but I'm just making up a scenario where you're talking about, I think I'm going to have to do this, and then later on you're like, oh, I don't have to do that at all. So then like figuring out how long it's going to take to do it, half a day, is sort of pointless. So that's why I choose to like kind of just ignore these things. I know that I probably will have to click on these, but I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure I will. But then the question is, like, if you do upload, and then you upload an image from here, let's say we're going to upload this one, then clicking on this image, which is currently broken, I don't think that actually did that. Maybe it did. Oh, it was funny. It's trying to post you to upload. It's saying it. I can't find that, of course. So I haven't reworked this to use the new upload functions because I wanted to go through and finish all the APIs as they're called by curl. But here I'm spending an entire episode working on grub because, well, that's going to have to be done. And it also forces me to sort around how the APIs respond. So when I get into this, I'll want parity between uploading an image from the curl commands, which I don't have an example in here, but it's basically these things are appearing in here based on the grub box doing it. But I could also post to this thing manually with an image using curl, but then I also need to post to it using this uploader tool. So there's like 3 ways to do it, and all 3 ways have to use the same methodology, the same formatting of the data that they're sending, so that the system can make sense of it and do the appropriate thing depending on which method is being used to upload it. So, you know, clicking on this, should I click on that to view it? That was what I had in the past. You'd click on this and it would open full screen. But then if you had 4 or 5 of them in here, then it would get all out of whack and it just didn't work. And so then I was just like, I blew it off because I knew that if I wrote it, that I would eventually get to this point where I'm working on the upload endpoints. And then I would fix this, and then how all this works would completely change. And I would prefer them to look like this. So we're kind of getting there, but soon we'll be able to get here. This is actually kind of cool. I don't think I've talked about this on stream, but if you wanted to upload a bunch of flowers, you can just say upload flowers, and this will create a spool, and then you can click on this, and then you can just upload a bunch of flowers or whatever you want to upload in here. And it'll tag it, and it'll create a spool that says flowers. So it'll work just like what the other stuff is working, but you just can do it from the browser. And then you're going to run it to the tagger, and then the tagger will run it through the machine learning library. And so in the case of the machine learning library, I'm just going to do this because it's fun to talk about it. So let's take a couple of these. So we're going to take this one, and we're going to save this. I'm going to save it to the desktop. Then we're going to save this to the desktop. I don't know why that's a GIF. Why is that a GIF? Then we're going to go to Google Vision. This is where Mitta is going to get really cool all of a sudden. I feel like the second I get to the tagging APIs, these things are just going to explode with coolness. And try it now, Google Vision, Google. And the reason why is because once I upload, where did I go? It's down here somewhere. Let's upload the dog. once we start uploading the images or running the images through, so it says I'm happy. That's good. That was a happy day. That's a good day walking the dog up there. And then the labels, so we have labels dog, plant, carnivore, I guess that's me. A dog breed, companion dog, grass, snout, fence, leisure, fur, recreation, dog hiking, sport group, formal wear, wildlife biologist. I'm not a wildlife biologist, but you never know. And then text, we've got Patagonia. So you can see sort of the power of like running it through an image recognition system is you're going to come along, you'll type Patagonia, and this picture will come up out of the system. It'll be produced because Patagonia has something to do with this, as well as the labels. So plants and snouts and fence. So if I said snout, well, this is going to come up because she has a snout. Zinifer. And then if we go back and we look at another file, for example, we look at, I think I saved that to the desktop, this Hacker News file, and we run it through. Well, we get back some interesting things, which we probably won't use though, any of those, but the text is interesting because then we have all of the text that's on Hacker News in here. And then we put that in the index, and then that becomes a powerful thing. Then you can search anything you search for on here, like if you were to search for why did I leave Google, if you search for that, then this page will show up because it's got that link on it. And then it'll give you the URL, and then you can click on that and go to it. Now, I won't have, because it's not a normal crawler, I wouldn't have the URLs in here for that. But I would have the text. So I would have a record of when it was there. For aggregation sites, it'll be a little interesting to figure out how to deal with this because I will not have all those links. All right, end demo. How much time do we have left? About 20 minutes. Let me get something else to drink. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I fixed the smoothie. So it's orange juice with mango juice in it, plus some fresh blueberries and a frozen banana, and a little bit of ice. Tasty. Okay, so what we want to do is we just want to search. So we've got our index, and it's got stuff in it, and what's going on? This feels like the indexer's down. Yep. I'm going to start that. Alright, while that's starting, let's go over here and take a look at, is there anything we need to do? I guess we probably ought to test this again. We'll have to wait till the indexer's up though. It only takes a couple minutes to start the indexer. The indexer goes down because it's a preemptible instance. So I save either $12 or $22 a month. I mean, it runs for 24 hours, so it's not... These recommendations are just based on the size of the box. The reason I run the size of the box I do is to make it fast. So I don't really care about this stuff. So I guess I can't make up its mind which I save. But this is preemptible. These are preemptible too, so that's pretty cheap as well. So it's not really that expensive. I think it's like $30 a month right now. Pretty reasonable. Better than having my own server. Okay, so grub should be nominally working. We don't need that one. In fact, I'm going to delete that. This is kind of a joke. This one right here. We don't need that. Delete. Okay. And then we're going to go into search. So I don't know if I should be search, like this original search, or should I rename this one? Let's rename this one to, I don't know. Old search. And then we're going to do, okay, now it's renamed. And then we're going to do a new file, and we're going to do search.js, and we're going to save that. All right, and then we're going to do controller reports in search.js. And then we're going to hit up our endpoint, Solr. And we're in search. So let's run our thing because our index is running now. So it says, okay. So it says, yep, URL, title, description. Should be in the index now. Let's look. What we're targeting. We're targeting G, so it'll make its own spool or look up the one that's there. What is it? Where though does it put it? I guess it puts it in my active, right? So is this going to say Mitta? What is it in there? Title Mitta. So this should be in there. It's not in there. Where would it put it? And we have slimy brown lizard selected. So it's in one of these, or is it in mine? Or is it in none? That's a problem. So the problem I'm talking about is like where does it, like who gets this? I guess the answer is nobody gets it, because I would have to submit it to the index. I'd have to take this response and submit it. That's what grub does. The grub command does this call and then it submits it to the index. So in JavaScript. So it takes the response and then shoves it back to the indexer. Here we're not calling the indexer. So we would need, I guess here we need a way to get the list of our sidekicks, which we do have. So we're going to do we're just going to do a git on HTTP localhost 8080 / what? Sidekicks, which is I. That'll list the indexes. And then question mark token, and then we'll paste in our token. Invalid token. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Equals. Alright, so there are all our indexes. It actually has the dot counts coming out, which is kind of nice. Alright. So that sort of answers my own question, is why isn't it going into the index? Well, it's not, because I'm not sending it to the index yet. So there you go. That's just the way it works. That's how I designed it. Alright, so now we're going to go into our new search. So let's look at the old search. How did this work? So we had a set timeout. So we're going to use this. I'm going to do this. View, layout, 2-column. And I'm going to move old search over to here. And I'm going to copy this. And this is new search over here. So what this says is it says set a timeout, and then it runs for, well, in this case 120 milliseconds, and then it's going to return the ID down there at the bottom as a string. That's just something that I put in there just so I can identify what the ID is of the ID is unique. So every time you call it, the ID shifts. So it's just something that makes the file unique and lets me know which ID is being used. And then we do this set timeout function. And in this case, we're doing this search here with the get JSON. So I think we want to continue doing that. So we're going to copy that. All right. Let's see, what am I doing here? View, indentation using spaces, and tab width is 2. So that should be, and then view, indentation, convert indentation to spaces. Okay. So we've got a get JSON, and we don't want to pass the line, or we do want to pass the line. We do that in upload. Kind of have this toggle thing going on in upload. Where is it? Wait. I think it was it crawl? It's crawl. So here. See, search right now is not very complicated. So I had some complicated routes here for this, but I think I want to do something like that. I'm going to have to figure it out. Let's see here. So we're going to call it with the line. Is that what we do with crawl, with grub? Okay. So let's see what happens with that. Tell you what I'm going to do for just a moment is I'm going to go down here to my layout, and I'm going to move this dude here, and then I'm going to move this. Can I not move this? Sure. I thought I reorganized them. Oh man. I like the max version of this a little bit better. Okay, that's not it. Can't drag on these. I'll drag into here. There we go. Put it over here. Okay. And so I want to test out search. So I'm going to run search here. Well, it says words and star star. Okay. Something's happening. Let's inspect this. It's actually an error from Solr. Okay, so this is working, and we're going over to here. Split these up so I can see what I'm doing here. Search. So it said line, and then it's going dropping down into here, and it's probably doing a query documents, and it's querying for it's not the sidekick ID. So let's go look at our docs real quick. You gotta make sure so we're saying index, and it says post, create a new sidekick, post to the sidekick, and then here we're saying queries to the sidekick index will be this. We'll see the request URL would be the actual name of the index, so we've got to redo that. So this would be, here will be not the line. The reason we're posting the line is because we can do a bunch of parsing of the line with Builder, and I don't want to do any of that in JavaScript. It's just nasty. So I want to avoid parsing stuff in JavaScript entirely. There's no sense. So just let the backend do it. In the case of somebody actually querying using the APIs, they're not going to build a line. They're going to actually send me the parameters individually. Like they'd say like the offset, or how many documents they want returned, or whatever. They'll specify that themselves. Date stamps, things like that. They'll have to handle that themselves. So here what we actually want is another quote like this, and then a slash, and then that, and then line, I guess. I feel like I ought to post it in the data. I don't know why I'm doing it like this here. I think this was just the old way of doing it. Let me delete that. And this becomes the sidekick ID. Yep. Like this. Okay, so now we're querying, we're searching the sidekick ID, and then here this becomes, I mean, you could technically search, I might be able to give you a default sidekick ID. And I'm sort of interchangeably using sidekick ID and name. I'll have to standardize on that at some point. I'm going to get rid of that. Maybe I can handle it somewhere else. And then I'm going to get rid of this, except I'm going to put it in the comment, because I want to remember that I need to do it. That one. And then I had search handlers, route, S. Just S, like that. So I took out both of those. This is the sidekick ID now. So this becomes the sidekick ID equals what? I mean, that could be the default sidekick ID. Whatever. And then this is the line. And where is the line defined? Here, this is where the line is defined. So there's all this stuff. That search, this thing right here was probably the first thing I wrote. So you can kind of see how things changed. All right, so let's think about this. So we're getting the sidekick ID based on, we're over here on, in search.js over here, we've got the sidekick ID being passed in. The sidekick ID is here in shell. Where is it? Here. It's defined up at the top here. It's also toggled. If the user changes it, it gets toggled. So by the time we run search here, we'll know which sidekick is the target for the data that we sent it, or for the search that we're doing. So we're going to do a get JSON on that. We could probably just do a get. I don't know why I'm doing a get JSON. We can fix that here in a minute. I think that just sets the, I think it sets the response MIME type to expect JSON. I think that's what it does by default. So then we're going to get the sidekick ID, which comes in from the URL now. And then we're passing the line. Yeah, so what we got to do now is we need to mock it up like what, grub? Here. So I'm going to change this to this get. Function. Again, sidekick ID is not defined in here, but it is defined in context, in the higher context, as this file is evaled and appears in the runtime, the JavaScript runtime. It has context. It has all the entire page context available to it, so it's able to get sidekick ID from the main page, and then that's updated and managed by the sidekick command, this thing right here. So here we're saying a get, but we actually want, I'm doing a get, but I need to specify, I need to specify some parameters. So I think, how do I do that? I don't remember. Let's see here. jQuery get. And then there's some data. This is a shorthand function, which is equivalent to whatever. So function data. I think you just put a comma, don't you? I don't remember. Yeah, this thing right here. And then you put a alert the results from the done alert. Well, that's weird. So you can put a comma and the data, or you can put this and that. Okay, well, I don't know. This thing? Guess I want it like this. Or should I do it like this? This guy. Because there's the data. And then success would be the function. I don't know. There's about a zillion different ways you can do it. Where'd the one go I wanted? This one? Yeah. Okay, that's the one I want. Do I do it like that? And then I guess you just put it straight in there like that? I guess it is, isn't it? Because it's JSON. And then in done, I want to what? I want controller report data. That'll print it out on the screen, right? So get rid of this now. Okay. And then what we need to do is put the line in. So we need to say line, I guess. Is that what we did before? Here. Oh, we said data. This whole thing is an object, or a dictionary, I guess. Might actually say URL here. There's a comma there already, and then we say data, JSON, stringify. I don't know if I need to do that or not, but I'm going to do it because I think it looks like it's a good idea to do it. I don't think I did it before. In fact, I know I didn't do it before. I forget what the other function is that I do that with, but in this case, I'm going to try this. So it says here, I don't know, maybe I don't need to do that. I don't think I do. I think it's already good to go. Content type. This stuff right there. Is that it? Can handle an error. It's always good to handle errors, I guess. Yeah. Especially with search. All right, let's give it a whirl. Well, it did something. Search got an unexpected keyword argument sidekick ID. Oh yeah, what line? But where? I guess that's in the actual search here. Sidekick ID. Search got an extra. Oh, I hadn't saved it. Okay, I'll try again. anything. Having error. It's okay. Request reference before assignment. Line request form, line get. Search. Oh, good. Line 28 and search here. Local variable request reference before assignment. Really? Sorry, kicked the mic. Search, crawl handlers, search handlers, crawl handlers, search handlers. There's crawl here, search handlers. Why? There's only one search handler. And we do have a bunch of this crap down here, so let me get rid of this. It says request here, offset rows, request query documents. Oh, you know what's interesting is the request is reserved here. So I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm going to change that. Maybe that affected it? I don't know. Find URLs is not defined. That's good news. Okay, so in crawl, we have find URLs from libutil. So from libutil import find URLs. Expected search line 41. First URL only. Okay. We don't have any URLs. So if line, there's no line. Here. Like that. I don't need that. I'm not crawling URLs. Handle tags. We do need to do that. Split up tags. We don't need to put URL in the tag. We don't need to append that. Alright, let's save that and run this again. Name doc ID not defined. It didn't print out our line. Let's see if we made the request. Let's clear the network and run this again. We look at the J, we should see the headers. The line is search foo. The response was nothing because we're blocking. The response was the search command. ID is not populated. Interesting. Okay. And then query slimy brown lizard. Which it says it's encoded, which is fine. It's actually passing line in. And it's because we have doc ID not defined. And that's down here, doc ID. Foo, query documents. Query Solr using the user search line. And this is going to be the sidekick ID. Now let's look at query documents, which is in Solr. Here. So we have a thing called query documents. So it's taking the user ID the line and the doc ID. I don't know why I'm passing the doc ID in. I think I had an idea that it might need it. Like if you were wanting to look up about a document ID. Well, so it says it needs user ID for builder. I think that's right. I don't know why builder needs user ID. Why does builder need user ID? I don't think it actually needs it. I don't know why it would need it. But I'm not finding it anywhere else, so I'm deleting it. Builder. Goodbye. Do not need that. So I'm just passing in the line. Alright, let's try it again and see what it does. And then it takes two positional arguments, but three were given. Shell line 156 in JavaScript command, query builder line, Flask login, current user. Oh, great. So we could do I don't know. Fuck. I mean, the reason I have that user ID in here is because it's the sidekick. And that goes right here. Okay, well, query documents, so sidekick ID and the line, query builder line. All right, and then let's see, the problem that we're having in builder, let's undo this. And the reason I'm going to undo that is because, let me think about this. So here, I'm just going to do that. We don't actually need it, it's just wanting it. So I'll take it out later. None type is not iterable. Where? Web search line 47. Solr 139 in query documents in tags in splitter. And builder line 24. Here. Oh, you know what? I think the problem is that line is probably that encoded line at that point. It probably is the encoded line. Look how many times I call it. It's impressive. Then it's none. What does that mean? None type is not iterable. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I'm calling that on something that's not. Where am I doing that at? Slack's pretty nasty. How are we doing? Ooh, 2:17. We're over time. Okay, well, we're not getting to it. We're giving up. So I'll noodle around on this and I'll fix it, and then we'll come back and I'll do another stream today. Hopefully it's 12:30, so hopefully I'll get another stream off today, and we'll have it fixed by then. I'll explain what I did to fix it. This is like just nasty work going through my old code, so probably just torturous. So anyway, thanks for joining me. If you like the stream, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. And I'd love to hear some. Oh, wait, give me some earplugs. Oh, somebody said hello. Oh my God, I had 3 viewers. Well, hello. I'm sorry I missed you. Thanks for coming by. Anyway, I'm Cord Campbell. This is Coding Mitta, and I'll see you guys around. Take care.